ปิณวัฒน์เนื่องจำนง Thanks for joining Iron Rabbis program today. As a PhD student at the Graduate School of Asia Pacific Study, Waseda University in Tokyo, Japan, could you tell us why you are interested in doing your thesis on online games in Thailand?
First of all, I'm a game player as well. I played these specific games that I make research on since high school. Then after I entered undergrad and entered the master degree, I started to find a research that is related to social issues and the IT issues. Then I find the games related issues to be very important because the fact is that nowadays there aren't a lot of studies on games specifically, especially the topic that I'm focusing on. And most of these studies still focus on the negative point of the games. However, there are more and more game players these days, and there are still younger generations playing games more and more. We cannot deny this fact. So by studying the negative point of games wouldn't take the benefits out of what is growing in the market right now. So I think it's very important, it's fundamental to study the positive side of gameplay so that it can be used to develop our generation, to develop the personnel in the society.
I learned from your preliminary study now that you have chosen two particular games.
Yes.
Can you tell us the names of the game and why do you choose on these two particular games for your study?
I picked Hero of New Earth and .A, the Defense of Ancients, which is also called HON and .A. These two games are very identical in their contents, so I use both games to expand my data so that I have more data to be used for calculation in statistical analysis. And these two games are very important that it emphasize the leadership of the game players because the game separate the game players into two teams and each team have to work as a team. So it really emphasized the leadership of the 5 players in the same team. And this leadership emphasis would bring out the behaviors, would be able to reflect the behaviors of the game player himself.
So could you share with us a little bit now what have been found in your study?
Sure. My studies is on the correlation of online gameplay and leadership styles, very specifically into their leadership behaviors. And the theory is that each game players, they have specific abilities. Each characters in game, they have specific abilities. And in real life leadership as well, they each have specific style, their personality. And these abilities and the personality overlaps. Because they overlap, it creates the bridge that links the two worlds together. And by proving this correlation, I established a survey. As I mentioned before, that the studies on game and leadership is very tiny. We don't have a lot of data on that, so I have to establish the survey to collect the data myself. In this survey, I try to test the game's behaviors of the respondents and the leadership behaviors of the respondents. It's different questions, completely different questions that reflect different behaviors. But then after I collect the data, I ran the data into statistical analysis and it shows that there are correlations in gameplay and leadership styles. And my finding is that, say, in game roles, there are 3 major game roles. There are carry, support, and ganker. These are the main game roles. And in leadership styles, there are the 3 main leadership styles, which are authoritarian, democratic, and laissez-faire. I find that carry game role is correlated with authoritarian, where the game players who play carry in the game Han, he is more likely an authoritarian in real life. And if the game players play support, he's more likely A, democratic in real life. And if the game player doesn't play any roles or playing game for fun, doesn't have any responsibility in the game, he's more likely a laissez-faire in real life. And what this reflects is that we can predict the leadership styles of the game player. We can predict how the player behaves in real life merely by looking at how he or she plays the game.
And then with this finding, how can people make use of your findings? For example, company or employees or people who want to employ these gamers. Yeah.
Strategy. I would say you can, for business strategy, I would emphasize on the leadership issues, where these days it's really hard to understand a person without a very long-term connections or facial interaction with the person. But with these games, you can simply look at how the person play games for at least 2 to 3 matches. Then you started to have some idea of what kind of person that is. Then a boss or a leader can actually assign that specific person in a specific job that most suitable him. Therefore, the result or the efficiency of the work that game player possess is maximized.
Kun Tinawat, we are standing here now as a premise of Play Inter Garena, Thailand, and I have learned that the online games industry is expand very fast, even in Thailand. But why there's still very, very few study on this industry?
First of all, the society still look at the game negatively. We still think of gameplay as gambling. We still think of gameplay as simply pure entertainment. No one ever expect that gameplay can actually be used as a tool to develop a person's skills or personality in reality. So we still have guards into the games that we do not believe that it can actually provide for us.
And then what would you say how people can make use, if after your study is complete, how could people make use of it?
After my study is completed, then we will be able to study individuals, humans' behaviors merely through games, so that we don't have to spend large amount of times to actually study a person in real life, which we do not have that time or the chance to do so. We can use the game as a tool to develop a human's skills. We can use the tool we can develop a game that can become a tool to develop personal behaviors or personal skills of each game players in real life.
For the character you mentioned, carry, support, gangster, and the correlation with authoritarian, democratic leadership, would that benefit? Let's say if I'm employer, shall I put a person who fond of the carry role into certain job? Would that?
Yes. According to the studies by Fred E. Fiedlers, he emphasized his theory that if you put a person with a specific personality into a right situation, he would be able to reach the maximum efficiency of himself. Meaning that in a specific job, it requires a specific type of person. For example, in a job that requires a lot of decision making, requires a lot of decision makings where you don't have too much time. In this situation, you need to have an authoritarian leader to lead the company or to lead an organization to reach the maximum efficiency. In this case, how can you find that authoritarian leader, especially within your organization. It's really hard to do so unless you know the person from the beginning. And how can you know the person? You can study the person by looking at how he plays games.
And can we say it for sure now, or with some certainty that people who play the carry role will develop an authoritarian characteristic?
I can say for sure that those who play games as a carry role, especially in Han, he is most likely having an authoritarian leadership styles in himself. Therefore, he's suitable in the specific jobs that requires authoritarian type of leaders to be part of.
That is very interesting. And then as a person who has studied quite deep into this issue, do you have anything to say, and you yourself as a gamer, you have anything to say to the younger game player and the game developer in Thailand?
Yes, I do. It's very important that we place the game correctly because the games itself have a positive side and the negative side of the game. Therefore, the game players should play games with conscience. Simply by playing games over and over again doesn't mean that you will be able to become a leader in real life. You have to actually pick up the importance of that games that has taught you in the game. For example, how you listen to your teammates, how you care about your teammates, how you make decisions, how you have to deal with the situations that cause you problems. You have to be able to pick those lessons from the game to use in real life. Therefore, you will be able to actually gain some benefits from the game. But if you don't do that, if you only play games for entertainment, if you don't consider your teammates, if you don't really care of your gameplay, then you won't be able to pick up anything from the game. So it's very important to play games with conscience.
What about the developer, the game developer?
Yes, the game developer is very important because they pretty much define the market, the game market. Therefore, it's important that they develop a game that can actually provide to the game players, that will benefit the game players in some way, that will be able to teach the game player in some way. Some games these days only focus on the visual effects or the aggressive contents, which is not the most important point. The most important point is the game content. What will the game player able to learn from their games? They should develop a game that will provide for their citizens, for their game players.
Thanks very much, Kun Tinawat. We hope that you will share with us again when you complete your study and come back here, as a PhD professor or PhD, as a full-fledged PhD person. Thank you. And for today, the Eye on the Beast program would like to thank Play Inter Garena Thailand in allowing us to use their premise for filming this week's program. Thank you. See you again soon.